METRON. METRON is measure or sphere of influence, and we want to help you find your METRON through motivation, enlightenment, transcendence, renewal, outreach, and network. Today is your day to find.
Yes, today is your day. Welcome. So glad you found us this morning. And those of you that are online, we welcome the cyber community, and glad that you found us. Today's full of promise, full of possibilities. The atmosphere is pregnant with good things. Everything that you need, you already have. And we're going to get in touch with all of that today. I know that you've enjoyed Mr. Eddie Sellers this week. And Eddie has a very unique gift. And I'm glad that some of you that never have had a chance to partake of that get to be a part of it. He just broke a string on his guitar, but he's going to move anyway. Who needed the old devil? String breaking devil, you ain't gonna stop us. We're gonna have church on. Devil is a lie. We're gonna have church on 5 strings, Jesus. It's a 5-string day. Would everybody please welcome Eddie Sellers. Eddie, come sit down.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Oh, I'm so glad I'm removed from back in the day, because 20 or 30 years ago, it didn't matter if you spilled your water, if you was at church, you had a flat tire on the way to church, or you. But I've never played a guitar with 5 strings before, but it wasn't Satan, as what's his name used to say. Could it on Saturday night? Was it Satan? The church lady. No, we drove Patrick's car this morning, and I put my guitar in the trunk of the car, and it happens to be cold outside. So I get it out. So there's one string that's a little out of tune. So, I'm so glad to see Roz and Fred. I didn't think y'all was going to be here, and I feed off Roz when she's here. But anyhow, I went to tune it a little bit, and the string just said, bing. I'm like, well, it's a little too cold to tune it up, but it's all good. Isn't it good to be in the house of the Lord this morning? It's good to be in the house of the Lord. I love Jesus. I just want to start out by saying that. We're right on the verge of Christmas, and in a few weeks from now, and I was watching Jim post something about the holiday season. You know, over the years, they just kind of merged Thanksgiving and Christmas all into one big celebration. It's basically Christmas. So, but anyhow, if you bear with me, we're gonna wing it this morning. So how about this? Well, I'm forgiven because you were forsaken. I'm accepted. You were condemned. I'm alive and well. Your spirit is within me because you died and rose again. Amazing love, how could it be? You, my King, would die for me. Amazing love, I know it's true. It's my joy to honor you in all I do, to honor you. I'm forgiven because you accepted. You were condemned. I'm alive and well, your spirit is within me because you died and rose again. Amazing love, how could it be? You, my King, would die for me. Amazing love, I know it's true. It's my joy to honor you in all I do, to honor you. Amazing love, I couldn't be. You, my King, would die for me. Amazing love, I know it's true. It's my joy to honor you in all I do, to honor you. Be seated. If you notice, I cut that kind of short. Let me get this right here. I want to sing one other song for you. They like Michael Jackson wearing the one glove. Now, if this goes well today, I'll take another string off. I will say this, though. You don't never know how the Spirit of the Lord will work. Sometimes it can just work with us all having a good laugh. But I will say this. Last week, I just kind of got up and sung a verse or song or something, and Patrick wasn't here, and I was basically just in love last week. I don't think I've ever had so many compliments from people. I don't know what that was. I'm just like, really? Even this young lady right here, she came up, she said, I wasn't here, but I watched you last week. Said, I was just so touched by that. And I've had people to email me, and I'm like, well, all right then. But anyway, being that it is the Christmas season, and you know, back a few weeks ago, I said, you know, I'm not really into gospel music. Oh, I'm wretched, I'm weary, I'm this, but I love Christmas music. Very few of them say, he died, he was born in a manger, but you're pitiful and you didn't deserve it. You know, they're just kind of really uplifting. But I wanted to sing a verse, or a couple of verses of this song right here. One of my favorite Christmas songs. And every once in a while, because I forget where they come from, last night I looked on line about this song. And it was written by a guy in Middle Tennessee who liked to write. And for those of us that like to write, we have to have sometimes a quiet place so we can write. You know, I can't sit down and write. I love to write, but I can't write with shake, 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 shake that booty, going on in the house. I'm like, kind of calm all that down. But anyhow, I was reading about this guy and said he lived in Middle Tennessee. And, I have this love for songs that hit about that 100-year-old mark, and said his family was making all kind of ruckus in the house, and said he went out into the barn to write. And so while sitting out in the barn, he got to thinking about Jesus and the story of him being born in a manger. And said he just sat down and he wrote this song. And it's always been one of my favorite Christmas songs. Oh, beautiful star of Bethlehem, shining far through shadows dim, giving a light for those who long have gone, guiding the wise men on their way unto that place where Jesus lay. Oh, beautiful star of Bethlehem, shine on. Oh, beautiful star of Bethlehem, shine upon us until the glory. Lost my place. Give us a lamp to light the way unto that land of perfect day. O beautiful star of Bethlehem, shine on. O beautiful star, the hope of life, guiding pilgrims through the night, over the mountains till the break of dawn, into that land of perfect, it will give out a lovely ray. O beautiful star of Bethlehem, shine on. O beautiful star of Bethlehem, shine upon us until the glory dawn. To light the way unto the land of perfect day. O beautiful star of Bethlehem, shine on. Amen. I got my 5-string out of the way.
Come on, kid. Good job. Eddie Sellers. Love it. Yeah, Ken was, as I said on my one-on-one, he's on call this week, so he's streaming. But he said he was already listening to Christmas music, and I said, "Are you sure?" Because last year we started a little early, and I could tell, by December 27th, I was like, "We started too early with this, didn't we?" But he says, "No, I love it." And so I'm like, you know what? I bind the spirit of Ebenezer Scrooge, and it's here, and might as well enjoy it. And you're right about some of the most affirming songs, some of the best theology are in the Christmas carols. The joy of the world is totally a powerful declaration. It's a universalist concept because it says, "Let every heart prepare him room," and it's it's not just about the select few, but it's about he came to save the world and that sort of thing. So good stuff. I have several announcements, but I'm going to run the one-on-one if we can do that, and then if I need to do any addendums, I will do that. All right. Hey, beautiful people. Hope you're having an excellent day. It's been a while since I've done a one-on-one, and want to know, are y'all still out there? A couple of things I want to share with you. The first of which is a quote that I've talked about. I'm sure I've talked about a broadcast before. Some quote. I love everything Emerson said, or at least that I've read that he said. The favorite quote of his is the one, once you make a decision, the conspires to make it happen. It's currently the cover picture on my Facebook. And I love it. And every time I make a decision, I'm reminded of the truth of it. Of course, Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, "How long will you halt hands?" Jesus came along at the Sermon on the Mount and said, "Let your yes be yes and your no be no." He actually said anything that's in between those two polarities is the producer of everything that's evil. Everything evil comes out of indecision. So the implication is that even a bad decision most times is better than no decision at all. Of course, James said his famous line, double-minded man's unstable in all of his ways. All of those things are true. And Emerson was right. Of course, the scriptures are right. You have to decide every day of your life that you're going to be happy, that you're going to be well, that you're going to be prosperous. And the power of that decision, as I've taught for many years, drives a stake in the ground. And the decision actually becomes magnetic. There's plenty of money in the universe. Abundance is all around you. You already have everything you need. But sometimes the atmosphere is pregnant with possibilities simply because we haven't made a decision. And once we make that decision, it's like a lightning rod. It just draws in everything that we need, the money that we need, the people that we need to help us succeed. the ideas that we need, the creativity that we need. If you decide to succeed, basically, you're not going to fail. I mean, that's simple, but it's just true. It's profound. It's hard to believe we're already, 3 months into METRON, and I have loved every minute of it. There's no point in saying you can't believe it's the holiday season, because it's here whether you like it or not. And I love it. Drove around Atlanta last night, and they've already got lights up. A lot of new lights I hadn't seen before, and it's so beautiful. And I talked to Ken. He's on call this week, but he said he's already listening to Christmas music. And I said, are you sure? Are you sure you're ready? Because we started kind of early last year, but then I started listening to them. And, you might as well just enjoy it because it's here. And it's just the greatest time of year. We've got several cool month I'm talking about.
I couldn't think of what
talking about the power of a decision, but specifically in the area of health. We're talking about optimal health through infinite love and gratitude. We've been sharing some amazing things. I want to share something tomorrow. It's interesting because it's a scripture I've talked about for 43 years, but I saw it in a new light this week, something I've never seen before, and it has to do with vision. And you'll really enjoy it. If you can't come out in person, then log on to the YouTube channel. It's YouTube/Bish in the Now. Our artist of the month is Eddie Sellers, and he just does a great job. And our outreach of the month is Safe House Outreach. Next month, we have some things coming up, but we are going to do something for Thanksgiving. Not tomorrow, but the next Sunday, which is the 23rd. We've rented the lounge there at Opry Diem, which is where we used to have the communion brunches for Church of the Now Midtown. And you can come in there. It's not Thanksgiving food, but we'll have a time to get together and talk about what we're thankful for. And that really is, I know it's a lounge, but it's holy ground. Some of you that used to come out to those communion brunches know what an amazing time that was. And the atmosphere that we created in that room is still in there. We eat there a lot of Sundays now, and that presence is still there. So you don't have to order food. You can order if you want to. You can just order a drink. You can just sit there and listen. But that will be immediately following METRON on Sunday, the 23rd. Then our December event is going to be a trip down to the little White House. If you've never been there in Pine Mountain, Georgia, it's really cool. It's where, Warm Springs, actually. It's where Roosevelt built his house, and it's actually where he died. And the reason I want to go when we're going is it's December 7th, of course, is Pearl Harbor Day, but the 6th, the day before that, Saturday, we're going to take a road trip to the little White House, and they have an FDR reenactment, and a guy, he quotes the Pearl Harbor speech. So it's going to make that a lot more interesting, and it's historical, and so many things that Roosevelt did are still, things that we benefit from today. So you're going to enjoy that. Our last event to the Dillard House was just a blast. Do people still say blast? Did that date me too much to say that? It was great. Awesome. Wonderful. Also, and this is the one I'm really excited about, on Friday, December 19th, we have secured the Virginia Highland Church. That's where after Midtown Church left the Biltmore House, we went to the Virginia Highland Church, and Pastor Piazza and all of their staff. They're just great, and it's a beautiful historic building there in a wonderful neighborhood. So we're going to be using the sanctuary and the fellowship hall. We're going to do a candlelight service. The amazing Greg Kennard is going to be there on keyboard, and we're going to do Christmas carols, and we're going to have actual candles, non-drip candles, but actual candles. It just seems to me over the last several years, I've loved every Christmas Eve service that we ever did at Church of the Now. But it seems to me everybody's favorite part of those evenings was when we lit the candles at the end and sang Christmas carols. So we're going to do that. Then we're going to go downstairs. Pastor Tony Howard is catering the event. He's done, I guess, the last 2 or maybe 3 of our Christmas events, and they've always just been, it's like going to the Ritz-Carlton. It's awesome. So we'll be telling you more about ticket prices for that, but it's going to be a beautiful evening. I'm glad we got it on a Friday. I'm glad we got it close to Christmas. I think when you do a Christmas celebration too early in the month, it doesn't feel as special. So it's the perfect date. It's exactly what I wanted. I'll be telling you more about our Artist of the Month and our Outreach of the Month for December as December approaches. But the main thing I want to leave with you today is make a decision. Again, I know I've said it before, but even yesterday, I had to be reminded of just the power of a decision. And once I made a decision in a certain area, it's amazing. All those things start kicking in, and the magnetic centrifugal force of the power of your decision, it just, I don't know. I guess what it does is it taps you into your destiny as a creator. As I've told you a zillion times, the ultimate act of creativity is that the creator created creators. So when God or the Elohim says, let us make man in our image, or let us make people in our image, that's the power of a decision. And the universe is created as a result of that. So when you say, I will do this, or I am going to do this, or I believe this is going to happen, and you just commit to something and don't overthink it and don't second guess it, it's amazing how the universe really does conspire to make it happen. 2014 has been such a beautiful year, and I'm kind of sad to see it come to an end because it's been literally one of my favorite years on record. But that only means that 2015 is going to be even that much better. I'll talk to you about the new year as we get closer to that. I hope you come out and be with us at METRON tomorrow. We just have such a great time, and some of you that have been standing by and waiting to see, yes, it's successful. And last Sunday, we got there early, and when I walked in, aside from the tech crew, there was just nobody there. There was not one person. And so I was being sarcastic, tongue-in-cheek, ironic. So I tweeted, oh my God, there's such a big crowd here. I don't know what we're going to do. Please don't tell the fire marshal. It makes me nervous to be in front of this many people. And of course, then in a few minutes, people did start coming in, and we really did have a good crowd. So it kind of lost its impact. Of course, there are many of my followers that didn't realize I was being ironic, and they were writing me back saying, oh, that's awesome that you had such a great crowd today. But you know what's funny? Even though I was being tongue-in-cheek, sarcastic, as I am wont to do, it actually really made me feel good to say those words. So I may say them again tomorrow. I may just keep saying, oh my God, we got so many people. I don't know what we're going to do. Maybe it's calling those things which are not as though they are. And even though I was being funny, maybe it's the truth. I hope you'll be a part of that crowd tomorrow. I really do have a good word for you, and I can't wait to see you. Hope you have an awesome day.
So, thank you, Michelle. So write those dates down. Next Sunday, it's just easy to do. I love when things are uncomplicated. I can't tell you the things I've ended up buying just because the person who was selling it to me said, there was something I was buying one time and I wasn't sure I wanted to buy it, and the girl said, easy peasy. And when she said those words, I said, sold. Just something about that just appealed to me. So, we were going to try to do Mary Mac's, but Mary Mac's on a Sunday, you cannot get in the place, and it's crazy. So next Sunday, we're just going to walk over to Opry Diem. You can order if you want to. They've got people standing by. You don't have to order if you don't want to, but it's good. We've had at least this many people in that room before, and it was fine, and everybody got their order. So we're going to do that. And December 6th, that's going to be fun. That's a cool little road trip. And on the 19th, that's just great. I really wanted to go to Virginia Highland Church, and I just have a good vibe with that place. And but I like that we're going to be in the sanctuary and then go downstairs for the banquet. I kind of like that better. So it just seems to make the evening a little more special. So I'm thinking we'll start maybe 7:30ish, and maybe eat 8:30ish. So that will be cool. I'm excited. Oh, and then I'm taking you all to New York for Christmas. Did I tell you that? I already bought all your tickets. I hope you don't mind. We are staying at the Plaza, but some of you are going to have to double up in your rooms. But it's fine, and all of your incidentals have already been covered. So knock yourself out, have a big time, and we have front row seats at several Broadway shows. And y'all are cool with that, right? Did I tell y'all that? Okay.
Oh yeah, and I'm gonna be on the Jimmy Fallon show when I'm up there. So I'm gonna, yeah, you be in the studio audience and what Wayne's our, we asked for Wayne for our flight attendant, so he got extra. He got some. He got some extra perks for us, and so that's going to be great. If you didn't hear that, Eddie said, "Don't laugh, because if you got Jim Swilly money, you can do that." You know what? I'm going with it. Like, heck yeah, yeah. You know, I was telling Rutherford one time. We were sort of comparing notes with where we were in our journey, and he said, I said something about, you know, we've known each other for a long time, so we can be very real with each other. And we were talking about some pros and cons and everything. And he said, well, all I can tell you is in my world, everybody thinks you're like loaded. He said, you are the standard for prosperity in everybody that I know. I said, really? Wow. Okay. You know what? Let's go with that reality then. In some dimension, apparently that's true. So we'll just keep dialing it until we click into that one. I used to argue with that. It's like, I'd say, I am not. Why am I arguing with that? Like, okay, my God shall supply all of my need. So that's cool, right? I'm just jazzed about all of it. I love it. And again, our trip to Dillard House was so much fun. We had such a great time. So if you get a chance to go with us on December 6th, please do. I think what we'll do is maybe meet here in carpool. Some of you maybe live on the lower side of town, so it might be easier for you just to meet us down there, but it's not a bad drive. It's, 85 to 185. It's probably about an hour and a half. Very easy to get there. All right. Now I got to speak a good word. I punched it up so much. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to change your life. So this is going to change your life. We speak in this atmosphere and we say, let there be light. This month we're talking about optimal health through infinite love and gratitude. I remembered at that time. Well, I don't know how to edit those things. So if I make a mistake, I don't want to stop because I'd already started it like 3 times already. And I said, and this month I'm talking about something good. I thought I'll just keep talking. It'll come. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Okay. But not only have I enjoyed talking about this, but I've had many confirmations, not only my own physical body, but from so many of you who have said, you're exactly where I'm at right now. And look, we live in a real world. I'm not telling you not to go to doctors. I'm not saying any of that. If anything, I would say, cooperate with doctors. If you've got a good vibe with someone, then go with that and find what works for you. That concept of a rhema word it's true for everything in life. What works for one person may not work for somebody else. So you honestly have to do what's right for you. And this is not really what I'm teaching on, but this is what I was referring to in the one-on-one, something that I had never really seen in this verse before. And this is a free part because it's not what we're talking about, but well, maybe it is. But I was meditating this week about over there in Matthew 7, Jesus saying, well, he's talking about judgment, and he says, my paraphrase is, don't obsess over the splinter that's in your brother's eye because you might not be able to see the 2x4 that's in your own eye. And, when Jesus said that, a lot of people don't realize that he was being funny. Like when he said that, his crowd would have laughed. That's an ironic statement. It's not funny by our standards of comedy. The other night, Jonah was in Las Vegas. He was playing a gig out there, and he posted a picture of him with Sinbad, the comedian. And when you go to Las Vegas or New York, you can go to Madame Tussauds Wax Museum and take a picture with people, and it looks like you're with the person. And I said, "Is that really Sinbad? Or you?" Wax Museum? He said, no, we're doing a gig with him. And I said, tell him that I have quoted him for years. So our, what we think is funny now might not have been funny back then. But when Jesus said things like, you strain at gnats and swallow camels, that to that mindset, that was a funny, ironic statement. I hate the way that religion has sanitized Jesus and made him austere and not funny and way too passive. Jesus was very passionate. He could get angry. He could take care of business. He was, he was everything that we are, parts of us. But anyway, I was thinking about, because when I think about that verse, I'm usually thinking of it from the aspect of, you've got much more stuff to deal with than trying to fix somebody else. So that's where I usually take that from. But I'd never really considered the fact that he didn't say a splinter in your foot or a splinter in your hand. He said a splinter in your eye. And I just kind of, that diamond of revelation just turned and I saw another facet. The light hit a facet I hadn't seen before. Because really what he's talking about there is vision. And let me tell you why that's important. When you could see something clearly and it's just so obvious to you, doesn't it frustrate you when somebody can't see what you see? You just want to say, this is so obvious. Why don't you see that? And really, I think that this other aspect of what Jesus was talking about is you can't impose your vision on somebody else. If they don't see what you're seeing, the very fact that you're not seeing their right to see what they see, which brings us back to that whole namaste piece, then you're violating the law of judgment. And I don't know, it might just have been a word for me, but it really kind of brought me some peace in some areas because I have people that are close to me that I get frustrated with because I think this is so clear. How do you not see this? And you know how it is, like sometimes I've seen this happen over the years. If I really am supernaturally your pastor, like God supernaturally connected us, you're going to see me in a way that other people in your world aren't going to see me. You know what that's like when you bring somebody to church, like, oh, you are going to love him. He changed my life. And they're like, I don't get it. What is the deal? And it's because they're not one of my sheep and they don't hear my voice. And it can be frustrating because you want them to love what you love, just don't see it that way. And something about this word about, stop obsessing over the splinter in your brother's eye, it just personally set me free. I thought, well, not everybody maybe is supposed to see exactly what you're seeing. Like if I'm having influence on you by what I'm saying, it's because we're in agreement and you're already kind of on the page with me anyway. You know what I mean? You're not coming in with an attitude of, convince me. You're like, all right, I like the things that you say and they resonate with the things that I believe. So tell me more. So I'm not trying to convince you, that's, Jared was telling me about playing for a show last night. And I was thinking about, in show business, the concept is that the audience is the enemy. That's why you would say things like, oh, wow, we killed tonight, or I slayed him. Because the idea is that the audience comes in with a negative attitude, but you're so good that you won. Well, see, that's not what this is. We're on the same page. We're seeing the same thing. I'm not having to judge the splinter in your eye because we're looking for the same thing. But I think in your personal relationships, I'm going to come back and teach on that because it was so obvious, and I don't know why I never saw that before. And Jesus would say things like, "No man can come to the Father unless he draws him," or remember there was another time, this fascinates me, that he was teaching his disciples and they couldn't get it and he opened their minds and then they got what he was saying. And that's the way revelation works. Sometimes you can hear something for years and you just don't get it. Then there's this one day the switch comes on. You're like, oh, okay, I get it. So table that, keep that. That's your appetizer. What I really want to talk about today is I love I love the stories of the gospel. I would love the gospel stories if I didn't identify as Christian, even though I don't really use that word. I mean, obviously, I do love Jesus. And so if you're going to have to find a category to put me in, I mean, I'll have to agree to that one. But I do love the gospel stories, and I think they have universal appeal. I think anybody, no matter what your religious persuasion, can relate to the parables and the stories. And I want to show you this story out of Matthew chapter 5. It's the story of the woman with the issue of blood. And the reason I want to talk about it today is, a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned to you that movie Emotion. And they've got a Facebook page that if you like on it, it'll send you little reminders and memes and stuff like that. And it's very cool. The whole concept, if you haven't seen the movie, if you didn't hear my teaching on that, is that the body absorbs things that happen to it, including negative things that happen to it. And that if you don't process them appropriately, they stay in you and they can eventually manifest as sickness or disease. And again, this isn't new. I mean, I remember teaching on this like 20 years ago. I don't want to get too legalistic about it, but I have met certain people with certain physical situations that had a personality type. And I don't mean this in a judgmental way. It's just I'm trying to find ways to help people. But like when you say, what's eating you, we're saying that metaphorically, but cancer really does sort of, devour you. And I'm not saying that all of it, I know some of you are cancer survivors, some of you are working through it right now. But I know this, if I had a serious situation, I would be open to any possibility, anything all right, well, tell me your deal. I mean, I want to know, I've never understood when people get religious over their health. Man, if I get something that's life-threatening, baby, come and do a rain dance, Hail Mary full of grace, God grant me the serenity, rattle some beads, burn some incense, whatever we can do. I'm good with it. Namaste. God bless you. You got something that will help me out, then I'm all ears. But the concept of this, it's very interesting. And I believe that you're mature enough to hear this in a way that doesn't put you on the defensive. Because sometimes you talk about things like this and people want to defend themselves. Like, well, are you saying it's my fault that I got sick? I believe you're all past that now. No, but the word fault that's not even in my consciousness. I don't even think about blame or fault or whatever. I'm talking about keys. Like even this morning, sometimes I'll just put a YouTube video on while I'm getting ready, because sometimes they talk about things that sort of inspire me in different areas. And I was listening to Jack Canfield, the guy that does Chicken Soup for the Soul. And he was saying that success is like a combination lock, and that many people go through their entire lives with 2 or 3 of the numbers, but they don't have that last number that they need to unlock it. Jesus talked about the keys, plural, of the kingdom, meaning there are lots of ways to unlock the kingdom. So you have to access all the keys. So the idea of emotion is really it comes down to living in the now. I don't remember the exact part of the brain that does this, but the thing that we have that the animals also have is, some fear is healthy. Like if you're being threatened, there should be something that triggers in your brain to get away from danger. But the difference with human beings and animals is an animal will have the response and they'll flee, but they're not off thinking about it later. Now, I know, like, if you see a dog that's been abused or whatever, sometimes dogs are pretty highly evolved and they will retain memory. But for the most part, animals, they're in the moment. Whereas human beings, like if something bad happens to us, we retain it and we keep thinking about it. um, it came up the other day. I took my kids out to dinner and we were talking about things that have happened in their childhood. And I was remembering, you know, when Jonah was 5 and we lost him on the subway and we found him. I found him not long after that. But it was later, the more I thought about it, that it just messed with my head. Because I would think, my God, what would I have done if we hadn't found him? Like, what do people do? I would nearly have preferred he died than me not know where he was and not know, you know, is somebody hurting him or, you know, whatever. And it just, I remember one day I just had to say, I've got to get a grip about this thought. It was just tormenting me in my sleep or whatever. So, you know, memory is good, but memory, it also can absorb into your body. And I've shared this with you before, but let me say again to make my point. Some time ago, I didn't call it emotion, but I was talking about how we retain physical pain, we retain emotional things in our body that manifest as physical. And I said, this is a very out of the box concept. But I said at the end of my sermon, I said, close your eyes. And if you can get your head around this, put your hand where the pain hurts, the emotional pain. And I didn't know if people just be staring at me like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? 100% of the audience knew without even thinking, they knew exactly where it hurt. And their hands were in different parts of their body. I thought that was interesting because I said, don't overthink it. Just where does it hurt? Put your hand on that and let's pray over it. And so even back then, I believe the Holy Spirit was showing me this is a real key to healing. So I've talked about the story of the woman with the issue of blood, but I think I'm using this out of The Voice today, out of that translation. But before I do, let me just show you this one little meme that's from, by the way, it's meme, it's not Mimi. Emmy, it's when you put a little picture on that has a saying that goes viral and you can share it on Pinterest and all that kind of stuff. Somebody the other day was saying, I liked your Mimi that you did. I said, okay, it's a meme. All right. But this is by Dr. Dispenza, who's great. If you ever get a chance to hear this guy, he's really amazing. But he says emotions are record of the past. And so if the emotion is stored in the body, then the body literally is living in the past. That's a trip. Well, Teresa, I think we were talking about weight loss one time, and you said even when you are on the scales, your body the weight is reflecting about where you were 2 weeks ago. It's not really what you weigh right now. It's fascinating how, wow, the spirit can be in the now, but you're trying to get your body caught up to this present reality. And like I was telling you the other day, you know, if the body is constantly renewing itself, like those things I told you, that we get a new liver every 3 months and that sort of thing, then why do people retain disease then? I mean, if everything's being renewed, and it has to be, it's coming from, you know, something other than just the physiology of it. Okay. Let me show you this story. And maybe you can hear some things you haven't heard before. Let's just start at verse 22. And the Voice has it, the way it breaks it up in the Voice is it kind of makes it more conversational. Verse 22. And by the way, Jesus has just, in this story, he has just come from the maniac at Gadara where he cast, where he said, my name is Legion for we a minute. So he's coming from that scenario. And it says, one of the leaders of the synagogue, a man named Jairus, now remember that, came and fell at Jesus' feet. Verse 23, begging him to heal his daughter. Jairus, my daughter is dying and she's only 12 years old. Please come to my house. Just place your hands on her. I know that if you do, she will live. Now, let me just stop right here. This is a big deal. Not only is Jairus a well-known man. Not only is he an important man, but the fact that he's from the synagogue. This would be like somebody. This is a crazy example, but it'd be like in the '60s, somebody coming from the Ku Klux Klan to ask Martin Luther King to come pray for him. I mean, there was that kind of animosity between the religious hierarchy and Jesus. So you have to understand, for this man to approach Jesus at all was a big deal. For him to approach him publicly and to fall at his feet and beg him to heal his daughter, this just wasn't done. That's the kind of thing that if his contemporaries in the synagogue had seen it, they would have reprimanded him for it. How dare you even go ask this charlatan for anything? But then for you, I mean, you're the religious leadership, for you to bow down in front of this guy and grovel like this, it's demeaning. I mean, I would go so far as to say you could be kicked off the Sanhedrin court for something like this. These guys were spiritually superior to everybody else. At least they were in their own minds. So for them to bow to anybody was a big deal, but especially because Jesus was such a maverick. He was so out of the system, and not only is not a part of it, but he openly rebukes them. In other cases, he calls them snakes and vipers and dead men's bones and whitewashed sepulchres and stuff. So it's not just that he's on the other side of their ideology, but he's verbally abusive with them. So for this man to do this, he's desperate. And, if your 12-year-old's about to die, you may be willing to compromise on some things. When it's a loved one who is in trouble, you'd be surprised some of the things that you'd be willing to do. And the fact that it doesn't just say a leader of the synagogue, it names him. Okay, that's important. Now let me go on verse 24, or the rest of this verse. Jairus says, "My daughter is dying and she's only 12 years old. Please come to my house and just place your hands on her. I know that if you do, she will live." Verse 24, Jesus began traveling with Jairus toward his home in the crowd. Wait, let me stop right there. Toward his home. Now, I love, aside from the fact that I believe Jesus is divine and that sort of thing, Jesus was just amazingly cool. Just his temperament with people. Like, remember when John the Baptist, who was his cousin, remember right at the last, he says, Are you really the Christ, or should we wait for another? And, Jesus' followers were incensed by that. They're like, how dare he? This is the man who said, "Behold, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world." And now he's saying, "Are you really the Christ?" And it would have been so easy for Jesus to have jumped on that bandwagon and say, "I know, who the heck does he think he is?" But remember, Jesus turns and completely defends him, and he says, "What did you come out to see? A reed shaking in the wind?" He said, "Truly I tell you, there's no greater man born to a woman than this man. He was a prophet." That's a very classy thing to do. When you could easily trash somebody who's been close to you, but you just take the high road with them. I mean, I want you to have a personal relationship with Jesus, but I want you to learn from his example, the way that his carriage, the way he responded to people. And in this case, it's very similar, because it would be easy for him to say, "Seriously, Jairus, after all you guys have said about me," and any of you that are from my generation, remember in Jesus Christ Superstar, when one of the second or third songs in there, when the court gets together to plot Jesus' death. "Good Caiaphas, the council waits for you. The Pharisees and priests are here for you." Remember that? "Gentlemen, you know why we are here. We've not much time.
and quite a problem here. And then the people are out there, Hosanna, super. And he goes, listen to that howling mob of blockheads in the street. A trick or two with lepers, and the whole town's on its feet. He is dangerous. And they start singing, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I've spent a few afternoons in my mirror with a hairbrush singing. But that was the whole thing, is that, these guys felt very threatened by him. And you can imagine that, he is defying their system, and he's being effective. They're not healing people. And so the crowds are leaving the synagogue and following this guy. So it would have been easy for Jesus to have said, you've got some nerve coming here and asking me for anything. Why don't you go retract some of your statements about me and then come back? But I love this. Jesus just said, yeah. And haven't you noticed there's nobody, I don't care if they believed in God or didn't matter. He just said, yeah, I'll come. One of these days, when I get my nerve up, I'm going to really teach you what the story of the centurion was about. That'll rock your world. Because when you read the Greek word of what the man said, he didn't just say, I have a man who is sick. Let's just say it was a reality in the Roman Empire that man served a certain purpose for him. And Jesus just said, yeah, I'll come heal him. There was no lecture. There was no, my God, you Romans are filthy, decadent, whatever. Jesus said, yeah, I'll come heal him. Whew. You start taking some layers off the New Testament and really looking at what it is, it's really real. But he doesn't say that. He says, yeah, I'll come heal her. So he starts moving toward Jairus' house. All right. Verse 20, it says, there was the crowd pressing around Jesus. Verse 25, there was a woman. Now, let me stop right there. When we read about Jairus, we heard a name with a capital J. There was a man. We know his name. We know what he did. We know his title. So, the Bible's patriarchal. It's written by men to men. Women were illiterate at the time the Bible was written. So it's coming from a man's viewpoint. What's that got to do with optimal health? I'm getting there. Because here's the thing. The things that are affecting your body are not just viruses and things you picked up from your parents. You're picking up stuff from the culture. Do you know what I mean? You're picking up, you're dealing with words that were said to you 40 years ago that you haven't purged out of your memory and don't even realize that that's what's making you hurt. Are y'all with me on this? All right. So this is just a woman. Isn't that interesting? In the Gospels, all the men have names just about. We know all the disciples' names. Everybody had a name with a capital first letter. But what do we hear about the woman? It's the woman at the well. It's the woman with the issue of blood. It's the woman who washed Jesus' feet with her hair. It's the woman at the well. So women aren't even considered important enough to be given a name and an identity. Oh, Bishop, are you starting some feminist liberal thing? No, I'm telling you, these are the things that affect people's health. I'm going to tell you this. In all the years of ministry, the one thing I had to choose, one thing that has affected people, not just with their health, but with their marriages, with their finances, whatever, it nearly all comes down to one thing, and it's the feeling of unworthiness. That's the one common denominator. You talk to somebody and you can tell they haven't forgiven themselves for something that happened years ago, and they can't get past it, and they can't get in the now, and they got self-sabotaging inner monologue. They're constantly talking down to themselves, and you don't need to say something ugly to them, because nothing you could say is uglier than what they're already saying to themselves. That's why words like "neither do I condemn you, go and sin no more," those are powerful words, especially when you have lived in an environment where everybody's condemning you.
So here it says, there was a woman who had suffered continuous bleeding for 12 years, bleeding that made her ritually unclean and an outcast according to the purity laws. Now, you know, this is delicate subject in mixed company, but even this morning when I was getting ready, I Googled, I went back and looked at what were Moses' stipulations about women who were on their monthly cycle. And it's so demeaning. I mean, it's so, like, first of all, the monthly cycle the woman goes through, that's a part of the reproduction process. If that didn't happen, none of us would be here today. And I got to tell you, I don't enjoy talking about this. Believe me, I find this profoundly icky. But it's important that you understand this aspect of this woman's situation, because women don't ask for that to happen. But Moses treated it like it was a sin. Like, after a woman has been on her cycle, she had to bring like 2 turtle doves, and she had to make a sacrifice for herself as if she sinned. I mean, it's a biological reality that nobody has any control over. And I can relate to this because I believe for some of us in this audience, there are biological realities with us that society and religion has said it's a choice, it's a sin, but it's who you are. It's who you always have been. And you never asked for it. It's just completely how you're wired. And I was thinking, wow, that's so interesting that these women who are just having it's a part of the birth process. But they're being treated like they had to be outside the camp, and they had to be considered unclean for 7 days. And not only was any place that they touched considered unclean, but any place that you touched that they touched was considered unclean. It was just really harsh on women. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like, wow, really? I mean, being on your monthly is not all that fun anyway, but now you've got to, aside from PMS, now you got to factor in the fact that you're going to make me feel guilty about something that is just a biological reality. And I've got to be treated I've got to be treated a certain way. And, that's why when people want to throw Leviticus at me, I'm like, really? You want to go Levitical? Really? Does your wife sleep in the garage several nights a month? Because if she doesn't, you're violating Leviticus. And usually I don't get another response after that. You don't want to mess with me because I've actually read the Bible. But the reason I'm saying that is I was reading through those today. I thought, wow, that is really harsh treatment. And I say this, if Moses were standing here beside me, I would have to say, sir, in all due respect, I don't believe that was a law of God. I don't believe God told you to tell women that they had to offer a sacrifice just for having their menstrual cycle. Really? Or that they had to be treated a certain way. And, it was even in Jesus' vernacular when he talked about your righteousness as filthy rags. He was talking about a specific thing that had a stigma to it. I know I'm grossing everybody out. I'm just saying you need to understand. If you don't understand these backstories, you will miss what these stories are about. The reason I'm saying this is this woman, and I don't know how people would know. I guess people in the Bible days were like really nosy, because there was even criteria like, since I'm grossing everybody out, Moses even said, like, if a man's part of his anatomy had been crushed, he couldn't enter the temple. Well, how do you know? Like, I wanted to, how did it be even that people know if men were circumcised or not? Like, wow, y'all really were up in each other's business, weren't you? But somehow people knew that this woman, whatever that she had, and the word, King James uses the word issue, but it just means flow. If she'd had it for 12 years, this isn't just a medical thing now. This is considered, I mean, some of you from a certain age group, your mom might have called it the curse. Sweetie, you're going to get the curse. Well, that's where it came from. People believed it was the curse. And this woman has had a continual cycle for 12 years. I don't know how people knew, but they did know. And it would have ostracized her to the point of nearly being the status of a leper. So that, I mean, she's like, she's the epitome of all the misogynistic idea that the patriarchs of this, I mean, it's amazing how much the guys that put religion together, how much they really didn't like women. And it's not just the Old and New Testament. I mean, it's in the Quran. It's, it's like, what is the deal? But this woman is considered. Remember how last week I was saying that lepers had to announce that they were unclean, so they were marginalized. And we have, I think probably the modern equivalent to a disease that has a stigma to it, would be HIV/AIDS, and we've talked about that. Eddie talked about it last week. But there was, there are still people who believe, oh, well, that's God's punishment to gay people or whatever. And like, wow, just not only do you not know about God, you don't understand basic biology. I mean, people can get that through blood transfusions or any number of non-sexual ways. But we are living in a world now where that has less and less of the religious stigma to it. Whereas now you can say, oh, this guy's positive or whatever. And people are like, oh, okay, well, now. Whereas 30 years ago, that might have cleared a room. I remember there was a time back when the Rock Hudson thing that people didn't even want, people didn't want to live in the neighborhood where he was being treated because they thought it was airborne. And with the Ebola thing, I saw it sort of resurface, some of the attitude that people had toward that. And, there's some diseases, if you say they have they don't have that with them. But I know even, I can remember my grandmother, she would never say the word cancer out loud. It was like, she has cancer. Just because it was considered, you don't even talk about it. It's too, whatever. And it's not like I'm wanting to talk about diseases. I'm just saying all of these neuropaths that lead us to a negative vibration, if we don't deal with them, they can manifest negatively in our bodies. It's important that you embrace your physicality. It's important that you don't have a sense of shame. I'm not saying that everybody's running around naked all the time, but you shouldn't be ashamed of your physicality. The human body is a beautiful thing that God created. Sexuality is a very real part of the human experience. And it's unfortunate that religion attached so much negative baggage to it. And the reason I'm telling this story about the woman with the issue of blood is I think there's so much that people absorb just from the culture. Now, I'm not saying that it was people's attitudes that gave her this. I do believe it's the attitude of the world at that time that made it that much worse. So it says she had suffered greatly, and although she spent all her money on her medical care, she had only gotten worse. She had heard of this miracle man, Jesus, so she snuck up behind him in the crowd and reached out her hand to touch his cloak. The woman says to herself, even if all I touch are his clothes, I know I will be healed. Now, you know the story, how that it says there was a great crowd following Jesus, because this was a big deal. For Jesus to be on the way to heal the daughter of Jairus, like if this were happening today, people would be tweeting about it. They'd be taking pictures of it. This is huge that Jairus came to Jesus and that Jesus even agreed to go to his house. So this is like a media event of their day. Then this woman crawls out who, people don't want to talk about. They don't want to look at her. They don't want to deal with her. And she's trying to get up to Jesus. I mean, can you imagine? It's like, oh, lady, we don't have time for your nasty reality. This is a big deal over here. Do you understand? This is Jairus. There's nothing worse than being invisible. That somebody just doesn't see you. They don't notice what you're going through. They don't think about you. And I believe that it negatively affects people's health. I think one of the main reasons this woman couldn't get well of this thing is you're living in a toxic culture that is not even conducive to you being well. How am I going to get well when people are yelling Levitical law at me and making me feel worse about something that I already feel horrible about? That's not a healthy environment. Look, I'm in good health, and I'm even careful about who I let talk to me. If you have physical issues, you got to really be protective over yourself and not let people put certain things in you, because it just it can really have a bad effect on you. You have to be a steward over your own spirit, because words do affect. I've had people say things to me that I could literally feel. Back in the early days of the ministry, God, it's such a different time now. And I think the internet probably changed a lot of it, because people can be, they can say what they want to say anonymously. But there was a time, look, I'm a larger than life personality. I'm a little bit different, whatever. So over the years, I evoked a lot of different reactions out of people. A lot of people loved me, a lot of people didn't. And I remember there was a time back in the day that people would make appointments with me to come to my office to tell me what they didn't like about me. And I remember one of them went on for, I kid you not, no exaggeration, 4 hours. And I'm just sitting there, and this guy has been on me for 4 hours, just keeping a record of, you use too many pronouns when you speak. It's always I and me. And last Sunday I counted it. You said I 177 times. And when you're hearing stuff like that, you're thinking, you think, my God, do other people think that? And whatever. And I remember clearly hearing the voice inside me saying, you got to stop this. I never told you to do this, and don't ever do it again. And to the point now, not that I can't take it, because God knows I've had plenty of it, but even now, I stay at my friend limit on Facebook, but if somebody either goes off, or unfriends me, whatever, I've got an opening, somebody immediately will want to friend me. And if I don't see that we have a lot of mutual friends, I will ask them before I hit this button, are you coming in peace? Because I don't have time for that, but stuff like that, my God, can just, physically make you sick. By the same token, a piece of good news automatically makes you feel better. Proverbs is full of that stuff. That's why laughter does good, like a medicine. All right, let me wrap this up. She says, as soon as her fingers brushed his cloak, the bleeding stopped. She could feel that she was whole again. And this is sort of a different aspect, but I love the fact that this woman kind of creates her own theology here. There is no precedent that says, touch a holy man's clothes and you'll be healed. That's for some reason, that's what she could get her head around. She said, I believe if I can touch his clothes, I'll be healed. That's why I don't like legalism. Some people say, well, you have to be anointed with oil. Well, not necessarily. You need to do what works for you. Because what works for somebody else may not be your aim of work. Anyway, lots of people were pressed against Jesus at that moment but he immediately felt her touch. He felt healing power flow out of him. He stopped. Everyone stopped. He looked around. Jesus said, "Who just touched my robe?" His disciples broke the uneasy silence. Disciples, Jesus, the crowd is so thick that everyone is touching you. Why do you ask, "Who touched me?" But Jesus waited. His gaze swept across the crowd to see who had done it. Now, let me tell you why this is important. This is a woman that nobody wants to look at. Do you know what I mean? This is the woman that when she comes to the party, you're like, oh my God, who invited hemorrhagey over here? You know, like, jeez, this woman's she's gross. And the fact that Jesus, in the presence of Jairus, stops and says, wait a minute, something important just happened. He didn't brush it aside saying, I ain't got time for some unnamed woman with her issue. This is a great career move for me potentially to be, man, if I could heal a synagogue leader's daughter, this could be great for my career. But he stops and he says, who touched me? That's so huge. For somebody to see who you are. I love that Leon Russell song. It's one of my favorite songs back in the 70s where he goes, I know your image of me is what I hope to be. I love that line. I know your image of me is what I hope to be. We all need somebody that sees who we really are. Because sometimes you can't see it yourself. You have to nearly sort of hook up to them and see you through their eyes. I've had this conversation with Ernie Neighbor over the years because, obviously they've traveled with me and they've always gone at their own expense. And, they say that without making you resent them. I mean, that's like a spiritual thing that God put in their heart. But anything I remember one night I was I just was in the audience of that thing that Don Lemon did over here at Grady. I wasn't even part of the program. And Ernie drove all the way in just to be there because I was going to be in the audience. I said, you didn't have to drive all the way from Madison. But I thought, I finally got to where I could quit arguing with him. I thought, well, clearly y'all see, I guess you think what I do is really important. So I guess I'm just going to think, well, thanks for showing up. I appreciate that you drove from Madison to sit in the audience just because I'm in the audience with this thing. And they might possibly call on me. Do you understand? You have to have, especially when you're surrounded by people who don't see you. I mean, if you don't mind me keeping it a little real right here, like sometimes, I'm still Facebook friends with lots of people who have disconnected from me. And sometimes I look on and there's like pictures of all these people together in a room. And I'm like, shoot, that's a lot of heartache in one picture right there. Like, wow, ouch, 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 ouch. Yikes. And I'm sure they're not even thinking about me. But when you see that concentration of that many people who have written you horrible letters and don't speak to you now, you're like, if I weren't in church, I'd be like, damn, that's like, you have no idea how painful it is to see that concentration of people that you poured your life into that, never made stuff right with you. And it's like, woo, I got to go find some other pictures to look at because you just can't dwell on that. And I'm in the now, whatever, but I'm just saying, you got to have some positive input into your life or you can't survive. You got to have somebody somewhere that's just going to love you unconditionally. And that's why, really, that's the why I'm calling this month through infinite love and gratitude. Listen to me. This is the most important thing I want to say today. I got to get you out of here. There is nothing more healing than love. I don't care if you've got to go through something. I don't care if it's open heart surgery, whatever it is. I want to know, I want you to have good doctors, but I need to know, is somebody in this room going to love you? I mean, are you loved, and do you know you're loved? Because that's as big a part of your recovery as anything they're going to do for you medically. That's why when you go to a doctor, I mean, it's hard for doctors to, really feel compassion because they hear stuff all the time. But isn't it just affirming when you feel like, wow, I think this guy really is listening to me and really has my best interest? I mean, it just makes all the difference in the world. I mean, if I'm going to go to a doctor, I gotta have some kind of rapport with you. I gotta kind of like you. I gotta feel some positive energy with you before you start poking around and doing stuff to me. I'm like, no, we gotta have we gotta have a zone. Because if I don't like you, you're gonna end up hurting me more than you're gonna help me. And if I feel like you just don't care or you don't have time for me, I gotta find another doctor. And that's true for everybody. Like even, and I want you to understand this. Sandra had written me something this week, and I gave a very bottom line response to it. And I kept thinking about it. So I called, I said, well, tell me what's going on. Because I said, you do know when I give you a bottom line response, it's not that I don't care. It's that I'm like, all right, well, catch me up on what's going on. I got it. I'm in agreement. Stay strong. Those of you that really know me know that I'm deeply listening. I am profoundly concerned, but I also know that you're mature. And I'm like, all right, what do we got to work with? What's going on? What do we need to agree for? And yeah, I'm probably not going to make you go through telling me every little detail about it. Not because I'm not interested, but because I don't think that's going to really help you. Let's, tell me what, and I'm not just about physical things. I'm talking about with anything. Tell me what's up. And those of you that really understand that principle know I don't just text you back and say I'm in agreement unless I really mean it. And my agreement is powerful. I'm a faith man. So if I hate to say award, but if I award you my agreement, that's pretty good. I'm like, okay, I got it. I hear you. So I'm in agreement. You're gonna get through this. Not everybody understands that, but what matters is that you know and you see and you hear. A lot of movies keep, like, I haven't even seen this movie, but there's some movie that's out now. I don't even know the name of it, but the girl, she must be like an exotic dancer or something, and she's jumping off a building. And is that what it is? And the hot cop that comes to save her life, while he's grabbing her, he says, I see you. And what that means is, I'm not just a guy in the audience looking at your body. See you. And I didn't see the movie, but I think that's probably what saves her life. Because you have to know that you're seen. At an important thing in that, where they would say, I see. Okay. At last, the woman, knowing he was talking about her, pushed forward and dropped to her knees. She was shaking with fear and amazement. She says, I touched you. Then she told him the reason why. And I love this, the way the voice says it here. Jesus listened to her story. In other words, her story, woman that she was as important as Jairus' story. Daughter, you are well because you dared to believe. Go in peace and stay well. Now, here's my point. Environments have to be healthy for you to be healthy in them. Like, if you just not if you're compulsive about it, but if you're just pretty aware of where you put your hands, like when you're out Like if I've been out in the city all day long, the first thing I do when I come in is I go to the sink and wash my hands, just because I've been out all day. But even at that, I don't touch, if I'm opening a door, I'm talking to my sleeve, whatever, and I'm not being Howard Hughes about it and being like crazy. But I know that pretty much if you just watch what you touch and wash your hands and don't, be touching your eyes and your nose and your mouth, that sort of thing, when you're probably not going to catch anything. I mean, most of the stuff that you catch, colds and flu and everything, are on like doorknobs and that kind of stuff. Like if I haven't grossed you out enough today, this will really gross you out. They went to a pretty nasty looking public restroom, and they did a test of where the highest concentration of germs were. And you would think it'd be the toilet. The toilet was actually the cleanest part. It was the handles on the sink that was the worst. And so, of course, now most of these high-tech bathrooms, you don't have to touch anything. But it's just being aware of your environment. Well, if that's true, like a little germ can just come in and infect you, then think about what a little word can do, or a little bit of bad news, or whatever it can do to you spiritually, and then ultimately physically, what a contagion can do. So he says, go in peace and stay well. I am so proud of all of you. I mean, so many of you, I know your story about either losing weight or you're getting healthier, and some of you are having challenges, and I'm with you. We're going to get you through it. But I'm telling you, there's something about what we have created here that is very conducive to health. I don't have to have healing lines. I don't have to have catchers. I've been there, done that. What we need is an environment where it's just conducive to health, and it's positive, and you just come in on Sundays and you get your booster shot and you're like, all right, I'm good to go, because it's a toxic world out there. So you got to get your stuff. All right. So the thing about the woman here is where it says, stay well. Jesus didn't just heal her. He saw her. He listened to her. He elevated her. Even the fact that he calls her daughter. He in the presence of a well-known celebrity, Jairus, he says to her, "You're my daughter." That was as healing as anything else that he did. And that's the point I wanted to make today. It's like, if you got some people in your life that love you and see the best in you and believe in what you're doing, you're going to be okay. I'm telling you, their love for you, their optimal view of you, will help you get through it, even when you don't see it in yourself. Your faith has made you whole. Let's all stand. Look at somebody and say, I see you. I do speak healing to you today, to every one of you. Wellness and wholeness and optimum health, optimal living. I say that you're surrounded by people who care about you and love you, speak well of you, and speak positive words into your life. Your faith makes you whole. And for whatever your version of touching the hem of his garment is, whatever gives you peace, whatever you can get your faith around, second guess it. You are well, you will be well, you will stay well. With long life, he satisfies you, shows you his salvation. Everybody say, I feel good, I am strong, I am healthy, I am well. By his stripes, I am healed. The same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead dwells in me. My youth is renewed like the eagles. With long life, he satisfies me and shows me his salvation. I'm going from glory to glory. I let go of everything that's negative. I focus on everything that's positive. I forgive every negative word. I embrace every positive word. I live in the now. I call my body into the now. I call my body well. I call my body whole. I call my body strong. I say that I have optimum health in Jesus' name. Amen. That's worth a shout. Yeah. We'll play this, and then I don't think Danny's here today, so I guess if people are writing checks, you can take them back there. Oh, Ernie's back there. Or okay, good. If you will hit that, please.
Contributing at METRON is quick and easy. Simply text the amount you'd like to contribute to 404-620-5044. Once you've sent the amount you'd like to give, you will receive a link. Clicking the link will take you to a one-time registration form. This will make the contribution process even easier in the future. Once you've filled out the information form, you will then see a successful registration and donation page. You can now give anytime by simply texting an amount to this number. To set up recurring contributions, log on to visionthenow.com and click Simple Give. We have more information on how to do this available for you in the back of the room. Thank you for your investment in METRON.
I love it, and thank you for applauding that, Rachel. Appreciate that. Cheerful giver, Rachel. We don't have anything for you to sign up for today, and for next Sunday, you don't have to sign it. You don't have to prepay anything. Just walk over there, and it's relaxed. If you can hang out, we'll do that. As far as the little White House trip, we'll tell you more about that next week. All right. You're going to have a beautiful week. You have the mind of Christ. Good things are happening for you. You're organized. You're smart. You're attractive. You're intelligent. You're at peace. You have healthy relationships. Everything you set your hand to prospers. You're safe when you travel. Angels encamp round about you. And you wake up tomorrow saying, this is the day that the Lord and I have made and are making. I will rejoice and be glad in it. God bless you. Go in peace. Love you, love you, love you.